All right, we will start. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am very, very happy to and honored to welcome everyone that's present today. And I'm delighted to represent Shuddha Free Voice in this webinar. Shuddha, as many of you know, has a long history of being very committed to women's rights and to activism it started in Bangladesh in 1990, and then as a publication house in 2004 in Dhaka, where it continued until 2015, which is when the publisher was attacked and had to go into exile. And then in exile in Norway, Shuddha began again as a online platform and magazine, and continues to publish promoting the progressive values and social justice issues and democratic values that were part of its core from the very beginning. And so if you look at some of the early issues, in fact, of Shuddha, they published articles about feminism, about blasphemy, LGBTQ rights, authoritarianism. So many of the things that concern all of us still today. So why are we doing this particular video or a recording or webinar right now? Is we were, of course, paying attention to everything that was happening in Bangladesh with the July uprising, and noted that there were, among all the other things that were happening, we also noticed that there were a lot of women who were very, very active and were at the forefront, and so we have some of them right here today who will talk to us, Prapti and Shamina. But then they disappeared. I mean, not really, but it seemed from the public view that they disappeared. So what happened? What's going on there? And of course, we all have different theories, but about what that might be about. But we have here the experts who can talk about this more. So let me just quickly introduce our panelists. So we have Kushi Kabir, who is going to be the moderator of our session. Kushi, as I think everyone knows, has an illustrious long history of activism from the beginning of Bangladesh's independence. She's also on the advisory board of Shuddha. And then we have Prapti Tapushi, and I remember seeing you on some interview, I can't remember what it was Deutsche Welle maybe, very, very early on. Totally impressed by your clarity and your conviction that what you were doing was important and valuable, and you were fearless, for sure. And Dr. Shamina Lufta, also very, very active in the numerous different fields as a teacher and as a supporter of students. I will say on the side, she's also active in theater. So for those of you who aren't aware of that, you should know. So I will hand this over to Kushi, and I'm excited to hear what everybody has to say. It's a very, very illustrious and group of women. I'm in awe. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for that very kind introduction. So I'll just be moderating. My role is merely to ask a few questions here and there. But basically, we are very happy and we thank Dr. Samina Lutfa and Prapti Taposhi, both of them, to have agreed to be on this panel with me. And both of them I think I definitely would like to sit and listen to them for hours and hear what they had to say. But I think those in the audience would also benefit a lot to try and understand what is happening in Bangladesh now, because we get so many different perceptions and views. It's very important to get a view from people on the ground, especially people who are outside of Bangladesh, have a totally different view of what's happening in Bangladesh now. So to get a view from people who live here and people who were part of the July uprising, a very integral part of the July uprising. So to understand what's happening now and to understand what the uprising and revolution was all about, we couldn't have had better people agreeing to be on this stage with us. Dr. Samina Lutfa teaches sociology. She's a professor of sociology, a post that she had to fight for her rights to be a professor of. It wasn't something that was handed to her on a plate by somebody who felt that she was the right person. It was something that was her right, and she fought for it, and congratulations on that count, Samina. But that shows the kind of fighter she is. And Prapti Taposhi, who has fearlessly spoken in many sessions and many places, and has been on the streets. So without much ado, I would like to just go straight into discussions and finding out what's happening, because we don't really have all that much time. So I'll be very careful about trying to maintain time as much as possible. So I'd like to ask both of you the first question, and either of you can respond first. Samina can go first and Prapti second, or whatever. So I'd like to ask both of you, you have both been seen as being very active and very involved with the July uprising, the whole of July, August, till the 5th of August, when the uprising took place. And on the 5th of August, when the autocratic regime of Sheikh Hasina, who was in power for 15 and a half years, or a little over 15 and a half years, she had to flee the country. So I'd like to ask you all, what made you all feel the need to join the movement? What made you feel the need to be so active and be visible? One didn't know at that time, I'm sure, that within a month, the government would have changed. A government that has been there for so long, a government without any opposition, a government who felt that they could be infallible, a government that felt that they need not be accountable. And the movement didn't start with the fall of the government or asking for the government to resign. So I'll just leave the question up in the air like that and let both of you respond in the way you wish to respond, which you think is the way you feel adds and gives you the ability to be able to explain yourself and your role in the movement. So Samina, do you want to go first?
Maybe Prapti, because it was a student-led movement. We joined in later, so I think it would be much better, and she's in a better position to start.
Okay, Prapti, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you, Kushepa. Thank you, Lisa and Mitrapa. I'm very, very delighted to talk to everybody and share my thoughts and reflect on what's been happening in Bangladesh. So, first of all, the question that Kushepa asked, I think we're the generation that fought the road safety movement, that fought the no VAT movement, no VAT on education movement, that fought the quota reform movement back in 2017 and 2018. So in 2018, I was just a fresh woman in university. I had just joined my classes. I think I had joined my university, and after 15 days, the quota reform protest started back at 2018. And after 2 or 3 months, I joined the movement of road safety at 2018. And we saw that, how the fascist goons of Awami League, the Bangladesh Students League, they had attacked us. They had shamelessly justified their attacks on students and protesters. And I'm just 24, so I have not had the chance of giving a vote or watching a proper election. So whenever after my high school, when I joined my college, and when I started a bit to know about the politics and all of the things that has been happening in the world, and along with my peers, that's why I'm not referring to myself as well, along with my peers, we understood that which country we are living in, which structure, the system, this is not democracy. This is straight cut autocracy and fascism, and somehow we should not allow it. So we have had several kinds of protests, the DSA protest, the protest for freedom of expression, freedom of writing, freedom of wall arts, graffiti. In our campus, I am a student of Jahangirnagar University. In our campus, our friends, the police have had filed false cases against them just because for an wall art. So these kind of discriminations, these kind of tortures, we have been experiencing those from a very long time, since a very long time. But when these movement, the July uprising, the monsoon revolution happened, nobody had the goal or had the vision of literally falling down an autocratic government. The students just wanted a very basic thing. They just wanted so that the government jobs, as in Bangladesh, the government jobs hold very much respect and security. So they just wanted to opt out the discrimination regarding the government jobs. And people like me, I have absolutely no vision of joining the government job in any near future in Bangladesh. But people like me, a lot of students who never had the vision or who never wanted to join the government jobs, but they still joined the protest, the movement, when the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, she ridiculed the protesters who were joining the march. They were chanting slogans in a very peaceful way. She when she came back from her Spain visit, she said that all of the protesters who are protesting, they're the children of Rajakars, a term, a derogatory term that we use against those who were against us in the liberation war of 1971. So those I would say these were the peak time that every students, we were literally triggered by that comment, because we have seen this kind of comment back at 2018 when we were protesting for road safety, a very, very basic, simple civilian right, road safety, safer roads. And back then in Quota Reform movement, we have heard that comment as well, that these are those, whenever we're protesting in Bangladesh, for whatever cause, this can be an anti-rape movement, this can be road safety movement, this can be freedom of expression movement, you are called the children of Rajakars. So those triggered us. And after that, the Bangladesh Students League, the student wing of Bangladesh Awami League, they have attacked the students horribly. I mean, I myself was attacked in my campus at Jahangirnagar University. They attacked us with hockey sticks, stamps, and various kinds of local weapons. And we were at the premise of our VC's house, asking for shelter, crying for shelter, begging for shelter, that those goons, if we get out of this house, those goons will track us and they will attack us, and please help ourselves. Please help us. But our VC back then, our teachers, they did not come forward to help us. And those were the time that we decided that this is a win or loss game. I know that nobody had imagined that the Prime Minister will fade away and Awami League will fall down. But we were there because we believed that there was no other option. There was absolutely no other option, because our friends, they are being forcibly abducted from their own house. The people, they are giving away false cases. The protesters, the people who did not even go to the protest, who were just joining the protest or chanting the slogans from their house, from their barandas, from their rooftop, Shahid Naima, Shahid Riago, they were shot dead by the helicopter, by RAB, by police. And we have seen that. We have seen people dying in front of our own eyes. We have seen numerous, I can't imagine, I can't keep track of the numbers of dead bodies I have seen in July. So at the time, we thought that there was no other option. We have to do that. it is for time that all of us had imagined that we will die. I clearly remember that at that 2nd of August, 3rd of August, 4th of August, every day I used to go out of my house, and I used to talk to my friends, I used to talk to my family, my mother and father, and bid them goodbye, because this might be the last day of my life. So this is how we joined, because no, we just had no other option. The 15 years of extrajudicial killing, giving no rights of vote, less of freedom of expression, the price hike, everywhere there was so autocracy and fascism that we could not even utter even a simple word. So this is how we led the movement.
Thank you, Prapti. Samina, do you want to add your bit?
Yeah. My story is not as vigorous as Prapti's one, because we as teachers of the university, we often were very inactive, just as Prapti was telling us, while the brutality was on our students in the very beginning. So I would like to start, I won't go too far in history, but 2018 must be named before we start talking about 2024, because what happened during the quota reform movement of 2018, when Sheikh Hasina cancelled all sorts of affirmative action using a sort of an executive order. I remember it was University Teachers Network who gave a statement telling that how this is not acceptable. And it was actually against our own constitution of providing special support to people who are marginalized and who actually need the support. So in 2018, when our students were being brutally beaten up inside the campus, we came forward and we actually was protesting against such brutality. We were not part of the quota reform movement per se, but when the students were being attacked, that's when the teachers felt the responsibility to come forward and help those and support the students who were being violated. However, from then on, and we had series of events like rallies and processions and human chains, different kinds of events back then were in 2018. However, we have seen that all of a sudden, Sheikh Hasina says like, okay, it's all gone. And the students were, giving thanks to her. So when in 2024, the High Court order came in, and it was actually in the middle of the summer vacation in the universities, at least in my university where I teach. And also there was a movement by the teachers in which we were a very important part as well. So University Teachers Network, which started out in 2014, but throughout these 10 years till 2024, we have been very vocal against different sorts of violations of rights of students and teachers by the regime. And we have been persecuted for many reasons. Like our members have had DSA cases against them. Some were picked up, arrested, some were beaten up on the streets, some were attacked by BCL, and the others were somehow or other procedurally and administratively, challenged by the authorities all the time. Like, promotions and things like that. Even like simple things like leave, for example, leave applications were not actually, well, they were not given leaves. Things like this, like so petty and so silly things. Starting from there to Maidul and Shirajum Munira getting arrested, some people losing their jobs because they were supporting students' movement, things like that. So there has been these kind of things throughout those 10 years. But in 2024, we were kind of like, okay, we are in the movement with other teachers where we were actually protesting against a new provision where the new teachers, faculty members would lose their pension benefits. So this is something which was very close to what we wanted to do for teachers. And so we were supporting that movement as well. At that time, when this quota reform kind of high court rule came in, we were not even, thinking about getting into that, because we thought, okay, maybe it's a ploy. Sheikh Hasina wants to do something, and then she will take it off again, and again they will thank her and go back to being Chhatraleague once again. So that's why we were not really interested, but we were actually observing what was happening. From July 1st, we have seen that the students were kind of picking up the pace of the movement, and we were following them, we were observing, but we were still debating within our own group about how to react. So we were actually strategizing about how we should actually bring the earlier statement again and say that it's like it was unconstitutional, and people who are really marginalized needs to have some affirmative action in place, things like that. However, after 14th, things changed in a very different direction. Because again, our students were beaten up on the 15th, and on the 16th, when 6 lives were lost, we actually couldn't stay inside. So what I remember, because at the moment, I'm kind of in a process of writing my own sort of autoethnography about this whole movement and how I saw it. What happened was, on the 15th evening, we had a meeting over Zoom, and we decided there has to be something on the street to protest against the brutality in Dhaka University. And I remember when we were in the meeting, the Jahangirnagar students were being beaten up, and we were getting all the videos. I think it was from Prapti and some others which reached us, and we saw that how they were being beaten up inside the VC's residence of their university. And then on the 16th, we went to see the students who were injured. But by the time we could into Dhaka Medical College, there was already fire, and there were live rounds, and we could even hear the rounds, and we saw students coming in every minute with bullet wounds. Those were mostly rubber pellets, but there were live munitions as well. And there were students of Jagannath University and our own university. And we have been there for until the evening, and then because I live quite far, so I left earlier. But on the 17th, we had this event, the protest rally, before which we were actually challenged with, our mic was not there, the internet was kind of really slowed down, so we couldn't contact with people. Many of the the teachers who were trying to join in were stopped at the gates of Dhaka University. Our banner could not get in, things like that. So we actually started 1 hour later. And by that time, while we were waiting, I think it was even from before, I think on the 16th night, I and Professor Tanzim, we had a discussion about, there was a student who was held at the Shahbag Thana, and we kind of knew that we have to go there to release him. So it was in the plan, but we didn't expose it to everyone at that moment, because we didn't want something to happen to the guy. And then when the banner came and the microphone came 1 hour later, and we then declared that we are going to go to Shahbag Thana to release that student. So we went there, we went in, we actually almost stormed in the Thana, and so they were quite surprised because they were not expecting us. We didn't tell them that we are coming. Often some activists would actually tell the police beforehand and the media, but we never did that. So what we did was we felt the urge to go and release that boy. However, when we went in, we found out that there were actually 2 boys who were being held, not 1. And because of our, we went and we said that you have to give him to us. And they were so startled that they actually gave both of them to us. And it was like 3 to 4 minutes maximum. And we actually took the boys and we went out. And I think this is something which tells that teachers went there, and there were teachers who were from the white panel as well with us. Although it was Teachers Network who organized the procession and rally, but we did not, stop them from joining in, because it was for the sake of our students, because we thought that if we showed up in numbers, then probably they won't be as brutal against our students. So the priority for us back then on the 17th till the 5th of August was the safety of our students, safety of students in general, safety of people. So we thought that if we didn't speak out, they will be even more brutal. So there was no other option left for us not to go and, join the movement. We didn't want to, but we had to, because of the sheer amount of repression Sheikh Hasina's regime unleashed on the students and the general public. Actually, no one with the right mind would have not joined. And we thought that because of our role on the 17th and how it kind of went viral, we thought that maybe this actually can play a positive role in, stopping them from doing more harm. However, in the very beginning, or I would rather say until the internet came back again, we didn't realize the scale of repression and the scale of crimes that were being committed. We didn't have the whole idea. But after internet came back, then we realized what actually went on. And then I at least knew very clearly that she must go. And it was a question of how many days. It was quite clear by then.
Thank you, both of you. I think you set the stage of what the whole the revolution, the uprising was all about, your involvements, why you got involved. And I let you talk for a long time, but we have to now be very careful about time and sort of have shorter answers. But I think this was very important to set the stage, so to say, set the background of what it was, because then we come to what we are discussing and what we're going to discuss today. And I'll go to Prapti again. So Prapti, what we saw were, to us, what seemed like there were quite a lot of women in the movement. So actually, as someone who was very much there, how visible are they? The visibility, was it really there, or was it just people taking pictures because the women were there? How integral were women in the whole movement during the uprising? What kind of role did they play? Were they just there as a mass support base, or were they also in making decisions as being part of the whole movement as equals? Were they in leadership positions? Were they coordinators who were actual coordinators or just in name? I just want to ask you, what role did women play during the uprising, the students play during the uprising? And Prapti, I'd like you to be a little shorter because we've already taken a lot of time.
Yeah, I'll try to be as short as I can possible. Yes, the students, particularly the women students, were very much visible, and there is not really a binary answer to the question that yes, they were very integral to the point, or no, they were not, because in some cases, in some points, we, the female students, were very much integral to the whole decision-making body, and particularly when the main coordinators, Nahid Islam, Asif Mahmood, and most of them were taken to the DB hostages, then it was the female students who wrote out the draft of the draft of the movements, and who wrote out the press releases, and who who contacted with the journalists. And in our campus as well, when the government had imposed a curfew, it was the female students, it was I, along with other female students of my dorm, who had joined a march, who had taken out a procession, and without even consulting to the other male students, because this is where comes the interesting part, because we have seen during the uprising, which might not be a very popular, popular reflection or popular mindset, but we being a female students, we have often seen that our voices are not being heard enough. Our voices were only heard when they needed our voice. So yes, the women actually took a very important role in decision making, but it was not always the similar scenario. Whenever the male students, particularly the authoritarian ideology or authoritarian mindset was absolutely there, whenever they did not want to encounter us as female students, they did not really pay heed to whatever the female students were saying. So this, I would say, this was the more or less the full scenario.
So it's very interesting to hear you say that, because from an insider point of view, thank you for being so upfront and saying what it was. Now, Samina, your teachers network has played a very crucial and integral role also. And how did you see, and I know your teachers network is a very, it is a very gender equal, very pro, it has a very, it's very, it's progressive in terms of genders, etc. So the thing is that, like, you could realize when you were speaking before that eventually it would have to be with the Awami League government having to go, Sheikh Hasina having to leave. So you said you were clear about that. How clear were you that in this uprising that women will continue to play the kind of role that they're playing, because we're out in the streets risking their lives? You as teachers were risking your jobs, etc. You were there, very involved. Were you able to gauge that there would be a change somehow, or were you hopeful, or what is the situation?
The interesting part about this, our role in the movement, is that we never had a direct contact with the student coordinators anywhere. So yes, we kind of could see what Prapti was posting or other students were posting on the Facebook or in social media, but there was no direct contact or communication between students and the Teachers Network. What happened was, I think in Teachers Network, University Teachers Network doesn't have a committee. It doesn't have any defined roles of anyone. So it's a loose network. No one leads. There is no committee, nothing. So whenever we are, democratically, we think that this is what we should do, most people, or most people who are being vocal on a specific point of time, like we need to do this. And then someone takes up the task to do something. And that's how University Teachers Network works. However, most of the organizing stuff somehow falls on me in the last 5 years or so, but there are others as well. And so it's impossible for me to know if, because within the network, there is not much of a difference in terms of gender. But for the students, we could only see what you could see. Because we were also watching TV, we were also watching the Facebook lives and the Bochamo Birodhi Chhatra Andolan's Facebook page and things like that. But what we also saw is when after 18th, when madrasa students, private university students, students from colleges and schools, everyone was out. And from then on, we could really see that there were so many women and there were so many females in all sorts of frames that we saw in medias. However, when I was in the streets, then I also saw many females in theater workers, human chain, or even in the sort of citizens initiative where Rizwana Appa was the one who was presenting everything. And because I was part of the group, I also know that the decisions were being made quite, unanimously, or it didn't matter whether I was a male or a female. However, for students, it's my take was that after a point, especially, for example, when general public came on the streets, for example, mothers, that was really with their own agency. It didn't have to be led by someone. It was people took the initiative, the responsibility to get into the movement because their children were being killed. So in that, even from afar, I see that women came out. Maybe in the very beginning, they were used as a strategic tool or to, create more empathy among the bystander audience, as any social movement would want to. But in the later days of the movement, it seemed more spontaneous and more women came out with more agency, with more leadership. We have seen students stopping prison vans, female students getting other students out, teachers getting out, female teachers who we never thought were political. And I am a political teacher, so I have been doing activism for a long time. But people who were not like me, even those women, female teachers, also were outside trying to save their students. So this is something which I thought was a very subjective agency of women were present. It was there. And from there, we can see what happened after 5th of August. The first targets, I would just lead you to the next question. The first targets were women because we were outside with all our agencies. In the beginning, we might not, but in the end of the uprising, we were all there leading our own sort of agency and leading our own subjective interest in changing the country. So I guess that's why we were the first targets, because not everyone would like that to happen.
So when you say you were the first targets, and this is for both of you, who were you targeted by? Because by then, Sheikh Hasina had fled the country. Awami League was in disarray. They didn't know what was going to happen to them. I don't know, do you think that they were the ones who were sort of leading this, or were there other elements? Very briefly, and then I want to go to the next question. Just leading on from what you said, Samina.
My take is, in the very beginning, it was still the sort of the systemic violence. So because it was very systemic in this manner that the whole of social media, and it was controlled by mostly people who are from that regime.
Yeah,
and the bot attacks and everything, it seemed like that the key actors, female actors, progressive key female actors, frontline actors were targeted first, like news anchors and student leaders. They were the first. And in the very beginning, it was still probably because of the narrative that if Awami League leaves, the country will be really unsafe for women and other minorities. So to make that narrative successful, that could be one source of attack. The other source of attack is what I was trying to say is when women are outside once and gets the sort of euphoria of having your own agency, and they become so political that it's almost impossible to put them back inside their homes. So there are other groups and factions. I wouldn't say one or two. There are other groups of people who would not want women to be so bold and powerful and political. So these groups later on targeted one after another. And we need to also remember that the systemic violence created by the fascist regime remains intact. So even when I was attacked for being part of the textbook revision committee with completely false, fabricated things, I think the reason was because some sections of the business establishment was shaken by our presence. So this business establishment does not necessarily have to be one party or other. It's business interest in a capitalist country.
Okay, that leads me to the last question, and we really must finish soon.
And before you ask that last question, let me just add also, there are a couple of questions coming in, and I wanted to just remind people who are in the audience that they can ask questions through the Q&A function that's on the screen. So,
Thank you, Lisa. So, there's been now, currently, there are two things. One, we see the invisibilization of all the women who had, as you call, Samina, the agency. Prapti said we were out on the streets because there was no other, we had to be on the streets. So y'all were active, you were talking, you were sending messages, you were videoing, you were there because you wanted to. You talked about mothers of the children who were being shot, who were out on the streets with their kids, knowing that they can be shot too, who felt that they needed to be there. So after this, we see now suddenly an invisibilization, as you did see, in those who claim they are the leaders of the movement. And we see that the role of women, even if those who are not invisibilized, the role of those women are not very clear, and they're not very, they're really not very clear about what the roles are. We see that there has been a rise of violence, extreme violence. And there's been violence, people say, and the government is saying that violence has been there throughout. Yes, but the response of the government, the current interim government, in dealing with this violence, in dealing with the public, in dealing in how to handle this rise of violence, what to do, has been very disturbing. So one, we see that amongst the students, we don't see that many women who are as strong and active. We just see a few male faces and voices and names. And we don't see, even in the interim government, if there are very strong women who've been part of movements in this country, suddenly not playing that same kind of role when they're in the government. So I'd like you all both to answer this, and as I don't know if it's possible to answer it briefly, but answer it as you can, is what do you think is happening, and why is it happening? Where are we leading to? Is it going to be something that is worrying for us as women to start being concerned about? Who wants to go first? Prapti again?
Okay, I think I can go first. The thing is also the question that you asked Nitrapa earlier, that we saw that Awami League is not so much in the roads right now, and Sheikh Hasina has fled away. So who are the people who are questioning the women's participation right now? Who are the people who are questioning hate comments, and who are trolling, and who are cyberbullying us, and who are giving us death threats and rape threats literally every day in our lives? So the answer is, first of all, that and we have to understand that Sheikh Hasina has fled away. Many of the Awami League supporters and ministers, they have fled away, or they are in their hideout. But the Awami structure, the Awami infrastructure, and the Awami system, those are still very evident till now. And we have to recognize that as well. And whenever we're talking about what is happening right now, yes, right now we are seeing moral policing, we're seeing more violence, we're watching violence against women, rape, and eve teasing, etc. as well. But what concerns me the most is, nobody asked me what I was wearing, or nobody literally talked about what I was wearing when I was right in front of the bullet of the police back in July uprising. But when I go out now, when the female students are going out now, people are questioning their choice of dresses. People are questioning how their attire should have been, or type of similar questions. So whenever the goal is to use women, whenever the goal is to mobilize women for their own favor, so nobody directly throws questions at the women. But whenever those goals, whenever those favors is done, the work is done, then the women need to go back to the kitchen. Then the woman needs to go back to their own home, or lock themselves in a room. So there are, whenever we are working, whenever we are becoming politically aware with people of different kinds of religious views, different kind of political beliefs as well, we are sensing that some of them are there who are not very fond of women coming up front and taking their own agency and being so powerful and acting like she knows what she's been talking about. Because everybody who are in the favor of the power, they fear powerful women. We have seen this throughout, we have seen this in literally the history of feminism. So right now, I am deeply. It will be life if I do not accept this, that I am actually very deeply concerned by the comments that recently our advisors have made. Because yes, absolutely, we have seen numerous, we have seen violent, we have seen bloody crimes against women and rape and eve-teasing and sexual harassment back in the army regime, fascist regime as well. But this is why we have fought against this regime. This is why we have fallen down those regimes. So we do not want any kind of legacies that that being brought up right now as well. So if we compare this regime to other regime, to the fascist regime, so this actually justifies our goal for uprising, the reason we have fought about and fought against. So now there are different kinds of students group, different kinds of political groups, different kinds of people with different religious views who might be threatening for women. So when I acknowledge this, this exactly does not concern me, because if the state, the advisors, the cabinet, the interim government, they need to play proper role in the security or in the mobilization of those of those beliefs and of those people, so that the harmony or the inclusivity remains in change. And lastly, I would say last one sentence, that is the visibility of women was there in July uprising. And after 5th of August, when everybody was talking that where are the women, we cannot see the female students. So now there are visibility of women, but those women are of no agency of their own. There are tokenism right now. We can see some of the female students carrying a placard or a poster or standing or sitting right in front of the camera. But does these women, do these women have their own agency? Can they speak their own words of their hearts? I think this is the question that everybody should ask right now. Thank you.
Yes, Samina, and maybe if you can add a bit about, is there a fear of people's, and especially women, and which Prapti also said that they fear women with agency, women who are strong. Is there a fear of women who are strong, who have a free voice, who think clearly and rationally? Is there a kind of a fear for this kind of thought being not, is there any way of trying to, is there a group that is trying to stop this within this current regime and making use of the gaps and the spaces and the gaps and the holes that remain in this present regime, because this regime has not yet been able to take control fully of the whole situation, as I see it. I'd like your take on that, Samina.
As a political sociologist, what I see is right after the uprising, this kind of interest-based politics is quite common. So before or during the uprising, there were only one opposition that we wanted to remove, and we removed her. We were successful. And then what happened was everyone was pitching against each other, right? For the sake of their stake in this whole success story. And we also need to remember that there is an election coming up in like a few months. So elections are completely different ball games than uprisings, right? So if we think in terms of elections, then who is going to vote and who is not going to vote? Who are the swing voters? Who are the undecided voters? If you look at the sort of surveys that we have so far, you would see that it's women and the marginalized people who are the most undecided voters even now, or even undeclared ones. So it's important that if women come out and vote, things would be very different. And I would like to bring to your attention to the fact also that women also have their household chores, their careers, their other jobs that they have to do, where they don't have any sort of support from the patriarchal mindset of males in this country. So when you, after doing all these, you want to do activism and do politics as a side thing, you need to remember that if you go on stage, there is a lot of masculine energy on stages, and this masculine energy is like, you know, pushing and shoving each other. And if you are a woman and you are inside that on the stage trying to push and shove men, that's going to be, there is going to be a huge backlash, because then you will be regarded as a bad woman, right? So this is something which also had to do with patriarchy, not only capitalism per se, or fascist regime of Hasina, and all these different sort of more regressive interest groups. They are not new in Bangladesh. They were here. But I would agree that the way the interim government has been dealing with this has been quite a failure, and they actually failed women because they didn't stand tall, they didn't stand strong against these kind of politics where women were being, scared of. And this is something which actually led to the tokenism that Prapti was mentioning. So one thing is that our household chores and burdens and double and triple burdens. The other is the sort of stigmatization and leveling if you really want to get into politics. And when they really do, even as tokens, that what happens is they actually face cyberbullying and many other forms of repression against, so that women do not get out. Women keep inside the kitchen and inside their households. So it's actually very challenging for women to get in politics. But that's the reason why I have been telling everyone to get into politics and start talking about politics and be very political, because we have been, and in the very recent past we were very political when we wanted to make Hasina step down, and we need to remain political, and this is a very important time when we cannot be scared. It's not the time to be scared. We have to, even if we are scared, because during Hasina's time, when it was bullets and other repressions, we were scared. But still we went out, still we kept on our resistance. So now our job, our challenges are not over yet until we create a kind of like a better democratic space for men and women where we can, speak about politics, looking at each other eye to eye on an equal footing.
I could really go on because there's so many questions that are coming up more and more in my mind.
Yes.
And I know we have to stop to allow for some questions. And I hope some of the questions would add to the discussions we are having, and especially maybe talk about how do we stop the invisibilizing of women? How do we stop those who are trying to push us back into, Samina, what you said, within the home and within courts, the kind of role that is expected of us, or expected roles. So obviously we didn't come out, y'all didn't come out, none of us came out from whatever we are doing, just to be pushed back into a role that somebody else, some male, hegemony of a system has dictated for us. So I don't know, Lisa, if any questions have come on that level, or maybe at some point we get the questions and ask Samina and Prapti to deal on that issue.
Yes, we have some questions for sure. And I just have to say, I'm listening to all of this conversation, and not only, is it confirming to me how impressive your actions were, throughout all this, but it also is relevant to many of us in other parts of the world, right? And so So one of the questions has to do, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but has to do with sort of the culture, right, that you're talking about, the systemic culture, and that is both the authoritarian structures that were in place that have been hard to get rid of, but also the fundamentalists, right, and the religious dynamic there. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about like how does Bangladesh deal with these systematic structures that are repressive to women, particularly, and whose responsibility is that?
So who wants to go first? Samina, this time you?
Yeah, sure. It's such deep-rooted systemic violence that it's not someone's job, like one or two groups of people cannot undo this. It's a long, continuous struggle that I think our predecessors have been doing, and the relay is now still ongoing. So it's like one very important part, at least at this moment in Bangladesh, to ensure safety of all citizens. That will actually ensure safety of women as well. Due process of law, rule of law is very important, and this can only be achieved by the interim government and taking strong steps against any sort of violence against women or indigenous minorities or other cultural or gender-based minorities. So this is something that the interim government needs to step up their process of legal practices, number one. And number two, we women, we have a long way to go. So I think we should brace ourselves and keep fighting on and keep, saying things that seems more important to us and are about our rights, and be very vocal and visible, even though they don't want us outside, but we need to keep being visible like this.
Prapti, do you want to add anything?
Yes, and also I have checked one comment regarding that, yes, fundamentalism that has been right now. So understand that I get your concern, I get your fear. I understand when my parents also talk to me like that fundamentalism has arrived again in Bangladesh, and we might be leaning towards a far right country as well. So I understand all of those fears from which they're coming from. But we have seen at 2013, we have seen numerous, extrajudicial killing of bloggers, of human activists, human rights activists by the fundamentalists. And Sheikh Hasina actually was the mistress mind among all of these and behind all of these. So the narrative that we have seen that the Awami League has been, promoting that without Sheikh Hasina, without Awami League, the Bangladesh will become Afghanistan, Bangladesh will become a very fundamentalist country and type of things like that. So with our actions, with our fears, with our concern, we should not at any way serve the narrative of the fascist, murderers, bloody Awami League, regime of Awami League. But along with that, we need to be critical of what's been happening, and we need to address what's been happening. Yes, we have seen the narratives of far rightists, we have seen the narratives of fundamentalists coming right up in social medias, in different newspapers and TV shows. And how to tackle with all of these? In one hand, we have Awami League's narratives and propagandas, and in another, we have fundamentalism and far rightists. So my take on this, that we have to keep talking. We have to be, very much present on present and not in future or in past or what should have been done. Rather, in present, we have to be very vocal and very critical of all the actions. And also, I like to very much address to that. I would like to very much address to that issue that the way the fundamentalists are, spreading propagandas, or at least to the outer communities, to the outer part of Bangladesh, the propaganda or the narrative is very real. So the interim government needs to ensure the law and order. I'm literally exhausted of speaking for law and order in literally every webinar, every shows that I have been after the 5th of August. Because when we restore the law and order, the people of all sectors, be it leftist, be it a rightist, be it a fundamentalist, everybody's rights are ensured. But you cannot, keep your citizen, you cannot keep your protesters' life in danger, and everybody is getting rape threats and death threats, and you can just enjoy your chair or you can just enjoy your power. The interim government needs to understand that the power they are holding right now, it is not actually power, it is a responsibility. It's a responsibility that a lot of martyrs had given to them. Our blood have folded themselves into their position, into their power. So the law and order needs to be restored in Bangladesh at any cost. This is high time right now. And we have to, the women, Pushapa asked that question that they want us to be in our home, they want us to lock ourselves in our home and confine ourselves. So what should we do? The woman, I believe that everything is political when you are a woman. If you make a food, if you write a co-ed, if you just sing a song, everything is political when you are a woman. Because in our patriarchal society, in our patriarchal culture, the violence against women has a longer history. So we have to do our job. We have to be there, even if we know that people will try to diminish us, people will try to side away us. Well, people do with that, with us right now, that they try to sabotage us, they try to outsmart us, they try to dehumanize us. But we have to be there for our own safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Prapti. Lisa, are there any other questions? I know we've run over time, but maybe one or two.
Yes, I think the one other question maybe would be good to ask is, what is your advice to others who are trying to organize? So there's one that specifically asks about Afghan youth and women, but you could probably extend that to many other contexts as well. So what is your advice to people trying to organize and trying to fight against these oppressive attacks?
Samina?
It's really difficult for me to sort of imagine even to do the same sort of activism in Afghanistan, where it's much more repressive for women to be outside, to be speaking out their mind. But what I have learned through this uprising is that my PhD is in social movement studies, so I do study movements everywhere. But this specific uprising taught me something, which is, I think, whenever women are involved in movements, what we see is a lot of empathy and sisterhood, which transcends much of the other divisions within among a society. So if Afghan women can actually create those sisterhood networks, which might not be necessarily for very overtly political agendas, but they can have I don't know, like reading clubs or other networking tools which might later on be used as a sort of net of sisters who can support each other. And in a very repressive society, it's more it's difficult to say what works, but people have to try different means and not lose their hope ever to change. Because I remember in July, I often felt I couldn't sleep. Many of us couldn't, and we never even thought that during those times when the internet was out, we never even thought that we could solve this. However, even after those dark days, we actually could see that people unite when the interests and stakes are really high. So I hope that something of that sort, or maybe their own way of finding their path to democracy and more freedom can come. But obviously, when everything is so dark, sisterhood sometimes gives you hope. Most of the times it does.
So even if we've run totally out of time, Lisa, is there any other question that's really crucial? And we'll ask Prapti to respond to that, which you think? Or do you want to leave it at that? And I'll ask Prapti to. You're muted.
There are notable difference in
You're
the
muted,
leadership.
Lisa.
All right. I think I would be interested there's a question about you're talking, Shamina, about Afghanistan and as another continuum. I'm standing here in the US, right? And we're seeing the US sort of slip into more and more restrictions, and especially from the perspective of universities, where not only the universities, but funding is getting cut or being threatened to be cut because of students who protested or a host of other reasons, right? And so now there's a real fear at universities, and I know that also faculty and students are not quite sure what to do. Right? It's because this is new for us. So for me, just listening to you is also very inspiring. But advice, either one of you for on the other spectrum, as we sort of see rights being slipped away.
Rights being slipped away. You talked about the US. As I see my neighbor India and my friends there facing the same conundrum as everywhere. But we'll end with the question you asked. As we see our rights slipped away, going away, all that we fought for, all that you all have fought for. This is not what you all were wanting or expecting after 5th of August. So, Prapti, do you want to say a few words?
First of all, my heart bleeds for the rights of the Afghan sister and women, those who are having to go through so many tortures and discriminations that I cannot even imagine sitting in Bangladesh right now. I have many Afghan friends, many Afghan sisters, and I believe that their journeys, their struggles was also a key to, inspire myself in the July uprising. The way they read their books on the when everybody is sleeping at night. The Afghan women, the Afghan female students, they just go out and they read their books and they talk in their so that they can get educated and stuff. So the way the Afghan women are trying to organizing themselves, that's remarkable. And also, I am not in a place to advise themselves because everybody has their own struggle. Every state has their own struggle. But as Nitrapa has already spoken about the sisterhood they might try to create, I will also say that we have seen in Afghan culture the rich culture of women participation and women empowerment that was back there before the Taliban government came into Afghanistan. So they can just re-emerge themselves. They can just believe in themselves. They are so powerful. Those Afghan sisters are so powerful that they can just believe in themselves, and these will lead to imagining themselves in fighting for their freedom. And the way the US, and just one line, I will finish, Pushapa.
Finish. I want you to say, what about us in Bangladesh? How do we ensure that we don't get not just marginalized, but totally invisibilized? How do we ensure that we stay where we are on top? So I'd like you to add that in also.
Okay. Thanks for that question. And the way Lisa was pointing about the US, the ongoing Trump administration coming into and all of the funds are getting down. So I have also seen the US students and US youth to talk so loudly against ceasefire, for ceasefire and for Palestine and for, women rights and abortion rights. And I think that, yes, it is a time for, for fear, for concern, for tension, because all over the world we are observing the right wing are emerging and they're being organized and they're trying to repress us. But I am a very optimistic person, and I always learn from the history, learn from the culture. So we have, and with my this sentence, I'd also like to answer to Kushiapa's question that we have a glorious history of women participating, women fighting for their rights. We have in Bangladesh, we saw Begum Ruqayya, we saw Priti Lata, we saw different numerous women, we saw Jahanari Imam, we saw Ferdowsi Priyavashini, and everybody's who were out there. We saw Sitara Begum, Talaman Bibi, and everybody's struggles, everybody's lives has inspired myself to talk, to not to do not keep myself in fear. And when we are being marginalized in Bangladesh, but I do not think that they hold this much power that they will confine so many powerful feminists and so many powerful activists and so many powerful women and female students in their home, because we are still there and we will keep talking. We will keep talking until our voices are snatched away. Thank you.
Wow.
Samina, last word, or bravo, Prapti? Samina, last word, or should we end? Are you as optimistic as Prapti? Are you as optimistic as
probably is that things will change because you have a democratic process. So if your people wants to change, you can change. And we are actually hoping that we will be able to establish that kind of mechanism where people's wills are reflected and how the government policies are made. So it's a struggle. We call it lorai chai. So that's the lifelong struggle.
Right.
Exactly. The struggle continues.
The struggle will continue all our lives.
Yeah.
So both of you are hopeful that our women cannot be totally subjugated and erased from society, from movements, from history, that we will continue. And with those hopeful words, Lisa?
Yeah, I think that's the perfect place to conclude, right? With some hope for perseverance. And yes, all of these
We just have to continue talk.
All of this is these are long projects, right? They don't we don't reach the goals in a month, in a day, in a week, in a year. And sometimes some of the goals are never totally achieved, but we keep working anyway. So thank you. I feel so honored to be able to have this conversation, listen to you three to speak, to hear about your experiences. And so I know we could keep on talking, and maybe we should have another follow-up, because there's like 500 extra questions that just popped up from this short hour that we had. But since we do need to wrap up, I want to thank you very, very much for participating in this conversation, and to the viewers, thank you also for coming and joining us and asking your questions and giving us some comments of encouragement in the back. I also, last thing, just want to remind everybody that we have, Sudashwar Free Voice has a website with articles about the uprising, but we also have issues that have come out. The most recent one was on curated. Before that, it was on surveillance and blood. So we have theme-based issues. There's lots of great material to check out. So be sure to try to find time to go to that website. It's still free to read. So that is always a good thing. So thank you everyone for this time.
So thank you.
Good wishes.
Thank you very much for having
difficult
us.
Not to be talking, but anyway, it was lovely listening to both Sabina and Prapti.
Thank you, Kushapa. Thank you, Lisa. It was an honor. Thank you, Nitrapa. See you soon.
Thanks all.